The 1950s. We'd never had it so good. This was the start of a new Elizabethan era, and it was also the first decade when Britain became recognisably modern. It gave us designs and inventions that are still at the heart of family life today. I'm Brendan Walker. I'm an experimental engineer, and I want to celebrate the innovators that took us from the hardships of the 40s to the prosperity of the 60s. This is the story of how science transformed an exhausted country into a nation brimming with confidence. And it starts here in the home. I'm taking a typical 1950s house and fast-forwarding it through the decade, filling it full of the latest mod cons and finding out about the impacts they had on all our lives. This home will reveal how a black and white Britain was transformed into a technicolor wonderland, thanks to the house the 50s built. Welcome to 21 Coronation Close, where we're turning the 50s embrace of all things scientific to the rooms where we spent a third of our lives. Although we tended to be unconscious at the time. Morning. Welcome to 1950. The first place you'd have experienced it, in the bedroom. I tell you what, it's not a luxurious experience. The 1950 bedroom was good for little more than sleep. The post-war furnishings were sparse and small. There were few clothes, and even fewer personal luxuries. This was a room that was purely practical. In 1950, there really wasn't very much to keep you up in this part of the house. It's uniform, austere and functional. And that Spartan theme is repeated in the next-door kid's bedroom. This is the room of a typical 15-year-old girl at the start of the decade. Feels more like the room of a child, but by the end of the 50s, a revolution would have changed it beyond recognition. And turned it into the lair of a new species, the teenager. And everything that would define them, clothes, makeup, music, was a result of a series of breakthroughs in science and technology. To find out how, I need to go back to the start of the decade.
The bedroom was, and remains, one of the most important rooms in the house, though it's best not to spend your whole life in there. When getting out of bed feels like the hardest part of the day and the outside world is overwhelming, it's vital to find tools to help relieve your burdens and face the new day. It takes work, but you don't have to do it alone. Our paid partner BetterHelp is here to support. BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy service, making it convenient to speak to a credentialed therapist. How it works is you just fill out a questionnaire, they match you with a therapist, and if it's not the right fit, you can switch anytime at no extra cost. With over 6 million users getting help from BetterHelp, it's a platform you can trust. To get started, you can get 10% off your first month of therapy by clicking the link in the description or by visiting betterhelp.com/absolutehistory.
I've invited a group of neighbours around who witnessed the birth of the teenager at first hand.
We never had fitted wardrobes, we always had little freestanding wardrobes.
Yeah, I remember the headboard. You'd always have a chair at the side, fold your clothes up when you went to bed.
And plenty of ex-army issue blankets.
What were your clothes like in the early 50s?
I think, on the whole, like mini versions of your parents.
Yeah.
I remember my mum in a frock like
Definitely, yeah.
We didn't have choices as to what clothes we were going to wear. We were basically told or
You might
given.
have been allowed to go to the shops and say,
yes.
well, do you want that one or that one? But that would be it.
I was looking through some photographs, and the only holiday we ever went to was Skegness. And I was there on the beach with my school blazer and cap on, because that was the only jacket that I'd got.
I was so old-fashioned. It was dreadful. There was not even a spark of anything fashionable about it.
Back in the 50s, sense of fashion was the point. You're going to have one pair of shoes, one pair of trousers, a couple of shirts and a jumper. That's it. Fashion, smashing.
Part of the problem was that clothes were in short supply.
What am I going to wear?
Clothes rationing had only ended in 1949, and utility clothing, effectively a civilian uniform, was only phased out in 1952. Even when available, most were made from natural materials, fibres like wool, cotton, silk, and that had certain drawbacks. For women, this posed a particular problem. And that means a quick but essential research trip to a retro underwear shop.
Oh, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Made of silk and rayon, this is underwear as structural engineering, with supports holding things up and stays pulling other bits in.
That's super glamorous.
Yes.
I really like that. What's it like to wear?
Well, doesn't give much, you know, holds you in nicely, but lots of boning and the fabric's really thick and stockings are really thick.
Yeah, a bit wrinkly.
Yeah.
It may be an engineer's idea of perfection, but for women, it was clothing to be endured more than enjoyed.
This girdle was designed so you could put it on yourself, but it still took 2 of us 10 minutes to get flare into it.
I can imagine this would be really hot in the summer, just chafe. I think, you know, I feel like if I was to walk around in this all day, it would probably, you know, rub in all sorts of places all the time, and can't even imagine going out jiving wearing something like this.
But a scientific breakthrough was about to bring salvation to British women. As scientists strive to find alternatives to the natural fibres we'd relied upon for thousands of years. And they'd found the solution in the unlikely form of crude oil. I'm going to meet my partner in progress, Marty Jobson, to see if we can create fabric from fuel. And the first thing we need to do is work out what gives natural fibres their unique properties.
It's silk that's super strong, shiny. All of it is down to the chemistry inside. It's all down to long chain molecules. That's all it is. It's down to chemistry. Long chains of chemistry, making it all up.
The discovery of long chain molecules, or polymers, was one of chemistry's great theoretical breakthroughs. Millions of molecules forming together, acting like a single giant molecule, and bonding with other giant molecules to form a long chain.
We need 10 grams of this stuff. And for this one...
How much of this?
Same volumes of each we want.
And it was out of oil and its petrochemical products that scientists first found a way to make a synthetic polymer that could rival those found in natural fibres.
It's hard to see how we're going to get fabric out of those two liquids.
We're going to pour this very carefully on top of this, and then at the surface where the two meet, that's where our fibre will begin to form.
The smaller molecules in the top and the bottom layers are being joined together to make a longer molecule.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'll pour this one onto there.
When you find the right combination of chemicals, something wondrous happens.
Can you see the sort of the layer that's formed where they meet?
Yeah.
You ready?
Is this where the magic happens? I think if you pull it out slow, it might stay attached, like really slowly.
This is nylon, the world's first man-made fibre. Industrial processes spin this fibre into a thread which can be woven into light, silky material. Nylon's properties were formidable. The thread was elastic and incredibly strong. It easily absorbed dyes, and it was almost infinitely long. In a matter of minutes,
our nylon rope trick has created tens of metres of material.
I can't believe we've recreated the moment man first made synthetic fibres.
It is one of the greatest inventions of the 20th century.
It is pretty impressive.
Oh my word. That's fantastic. That's quite different.
Very different.
When it hit Britain in the early 50s, nylon arguably changed the lives of more British women than any other invention because it made underwear work with the body and not against it.
It's just so much easier to wear. I mean, it still nips you in and smooths you out and in all the right places, but it just lighter, and the stockings are just nice and sheer and not quite so baggy round the ankles.
Once they started making nylon stockings, you could do a lot sheerer stockings than the silk and rayon ones.
They just feel a lot sexier.
Yeah.
It just feels so much better, and just less restrictive, and yeah.
You could dance in this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go driving and do the twist in this.
It's fantastic.
See, nylon fabrics were so easy to wash. I mean, when you were on tour with a play, you could wash your knickers in your bra and hang on overnight. It was a great difference.
Soon, there were 1,000 types of nylon. Scientists realised that by changing the mix in the giant molecule chains, they could create a never-ending array of synthetic materials. And I want to celebrate a British duo in my Hall of Fame who really put the P into polymer.
Meet John Rex Winfield and James Tennant Dixon, the guys who managed to break nylon's monopoly of the synthetics market. Without them, we wouldn't have polyester.
Polyester quickly became the biggest man-made material of the 1950s. It was made from a different petrochemical combination, and it gave us drip-dry shirts and even suits.
Polyester was quite exciting, though. To be able to stand under a shower and wash your suit was something very unusual.
By 1954, almost half of British clothing came from synthetic polymers. Everybody had much more to wear, and for the first time, teenagers could choose what they wanted, and it came in colour.
With those man-made fibres, the colours are really, really bright, so you get bright acid yellows and oranges and geometric prints or really bright floral prints.
Every year we were getting new colours, new fabrics, new fashions, and all of them went in here.
I think I need a bigger wardrobe. The 50s bedrooms didn't just get new wardrobes. The same petrochemical revolution that gave us polymers also gave us cheap paint that was bright and light. An explosion of colour and styles was also changing the way our bedrooms looked. I've invited round my neighbour Lou to look through our new acquisitions.
What about these?
Ski pants. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, we'd never had material like that before. Feel how stretchy that is.
That is.
It kept its shape.
Great colour
Right down
as
to- I
well.
don't know why they don't make them these days.
This
Look
makes me
at
think of
that.
dancing almost immediately.
Yes. Look, I've got a photo of me in a dress very similar to that. We used to wear petticoats.
So I see. So
This will give a
Flounces it
lot
out,
more
yes.
volume over this.
Yes. I've just spotted something that I recognise very well. That's what we used to call a dirndl skirt. It was in at the waist and went right out. And, you could just twirl around, be dancing.
It's fantastic.
The petrochemical industry was now fueling the birth of individuality in fashion. And it was from the kids' room that these clothes would be used to stamp an identity on a generation that was about to take on the world.
My parents couldn't stand the way I looked. They took pleasure in uniformity, whereas my generation took absolute delight in eccentricity and being a one-off.
Suddenly,
youngsters were making a statement themselves, and they were saying, we're not going to just wear suits and ties anymore. You know, we're going to branch out. We've got our own voice, and we've got our own fashion here.
Do I look like a young teenager?
Oh,
in
you
the
do.
50s? I certainly feel like one.
Our bedroom makeover at 21 Coronation Close is being fuelled by a boom in science-led inventions. And having introduced a whole rainbow of new colourful clothes, the innovators and inventors have turned their attention to the little luxuries that make a woman's life just that bit better.
In the 50s, the dressing table becomes this amazing Hollywood-style extravaganza. I can imagine housewives across Britain getting a shiver of excitement looking into one of these for the first time.
But it's the creams, sprays and lotions that went on it that I'm interested in. Most would have been beyond the income of a normal working household in 1950. And yet mass production, innovations from the petrochemical industry and a rising household income doubled the sales of beauty products over the decade.
Some of you, this is all about lipstick, eyeliner, wrinkles. To me, it's a chemistry set. It's yet another example of how science took luxury away from the rich and made it available to everyone. And for me, there's one scientific masterpiece here, and it's this.
It's the seemingly innocuous can of hairspray. This is the product that brought high style to the masses, allowing women that professional, just stepped out of the salon look without leaving the bedroom. And the concept behind it is fantastically simple. Because it's simply a pressurised container with a valve to let the hairspray out.
Take it off! What are you doing? It's giving you a nice hairstyle. We use these aerosols every day, but never really questioned how they work.
Well, there's not much in here, actually. It's a tube to the bottom and a thing at the top. And basically, the way it works is you have your product, whatever it is you want to spray out, sitting at the bottom in a liquid. And then when you press the top, I just pop that, you've got a little valve here. When you open the valve at the top, eek, the pressure above the liquid pushes the liquid down and up the tube.
So it's like a little flap, so the pressure's going pushing it up, but if you push that down...
That's exactly it.
Aerosols weren't new. They were used in the Second World War by American GIs in the jungle as a way to kill disease-carrying insects. It took the work of my next candidate for my Hall of Fame to turn that bug-killing machine into an everyday must-have. Robert H. Abplanalp invented the crimp-on valve at the end of the 40s. A cheap but very effective way of controlling the flow of spray coming out of a pressurised can.
The thing that revolutionised was when they kind of built this thing here, and they made a really cheap way of making the valve, which could then be just crimped into this really lightweight metal canister.
So that's why these weren't available hundreds of years ago. This was the real revolution that enabled us to make aerosol cans.
The liquid then comes through the nozzle here, goes up the little nozzle tube, and all that is a very, 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 very tiny little hole.
That's atomising the liquids into fine drops and creating a sort of cone, a jet, so you don't just get a single squirt on your hair.
Exactly. It comes out as a spray, as a mist.
It's safe to say the crimp-on valve was a bit of a success. By the mid-50s, Abplanalp's company was earning hundreds of millions of dollars, producing 250 million of these tiny miracles. But there was a problem. Traditional hair lacquer, made with shellac, a secretion from a Southeast Asian bug.
The great thing about this is you can dissolve it in ethanol to make a sort of a thick, gloopy liquid. And then when you spray it on the hair, the ethanol evaporates and turns back into hard shellac.
So that's going to set your nice hairstyle solid on your head.
Exactly.
This is basically bug juice, dissolved in pure alcohol.
That looks really nasty.
It's not the most appealing of hair coverings.
Oh, that's feeling sticky already.
It's horrible. It's disgusting and sort of sticky and yuck, horrible. No, you don't want that in your hair.
It's actually, look at that. That's a bit crispy.
And it's not the safest either, as our no expense spared demonstration shows.
Where have you been hiding this pretty little thing?
Hair lacquer made with ethanol can be flammable.
Can you give her a hair? You know, just look to her.
And in a decade when almost half of women smoked, that could be a problem. And that's why we're now out in the middle of a field, because this shouldn't be tried at home by anyone.
So this is the source of ignition here.
Fag.
Let me just see. Oh yeah, that will go nicely, look.
Shellac hairspray in particular needed so much alcohol in the formula that it turned a rather innocuous beauty product into a highly flammable substance.
Oh, can I light that for you? Let me. OK.
Oh dear.
Let's catch her in the back as well now. So I suppose that illustrates one thing. Never drink and smoke. I was going to say, I don't know. Your poor girlfriend.
Yeah.
Other formulations with less alcohol were tried, but they clogged the valve. It was the petrochemical industry that finally came up with a solution.
Polyvinyl pyrrolidone.
Oh, PVP.
PVP, yes, indeed, which is this stuff.
The beauty of this mixture of PVP and ethanol is that not only does it have all the benefits of the earlier lacquers, it can also be easily washed out, meaning hairstyles could be changed on a whim. And there was obviously less chance of setting the bedroom on fire, which in my opinion is a good thing.
OK, the hairstyle's a bit hectic, but I think it's safe to say that the delivery system's a success. You imagine a world without aerosols, where at the start of the 50s in Britain, that's exactly what it was. But hairspray wasn't the only thing using this remarkable new invention. You've got air fresheners, underarm deodorants, shaving foam, insecticides. You name it, this could spray it.
You would have your hair in a kind of sort of bird's nest round your head, lacquered and back combed in a way which would now seem impossible because it would be so bad for the hair.
Unfortunately, I'm a little tonsorially challenged to recreate the birth of the beehive. But one of my neighbours is on hand to guide me through the structural process.
What on earth are you doing there? You're combing it the wrong way.
This is back combing.
It's like laying the foundations of a building.
There's a way of getting height, as you can see how much height there is there. This is without any product, so this is what they would have done.
Yeah. So back combing and hairspray, kind of like the foundations of most hairstyles in the 50s.
Definitely. Then once you've got your style, you want it to last for the whole evening, so that's where hairspray comes in. It's the next stage. And actually, they would have used a lot of hairspray.
Yeah. It's like a smooth veneer with chaos going on underneath.
The back combing holds the hair where it should do, but this sort of almost smooths it out. It smooths the shaft of the hair together and keeps it in place. So once you have got your hair in a nice shape, it's going to keep it there. It's not going to move. And certainly the hairspray in the 50s, it didn't move.
Is it like glue then?
That's the best way of describing it. It's sort of gluing your style together, really.
Can I touch it?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
It feels really crispy.
Yeah, it is actually.
It's amazing that the products that were being innovated in the 50s allowed hairstyles like these, well, literally to grow.
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Products that were once looked upon as luxuries were now within the reach of the average teen. Scientific breakthroughs had made it possible for 50s teenagers to dress and groom themselves in a completely new way.
Once we'd got our own style and youth had a voice, and a very important voice, then I think we were aeons away from our parents.
The 50s was a decade of almost full employment in Britain. Teenagers now had the money in their pockets to do their own thing.
I got a job in a little coffee place and I was paid the incredibly grand sum of 10 shillings, and I would get tips as well. So I would actually make enough to see me through drama school, to buy a few clothes.
By 1957, it was estimated British teenagers had around £900 million a year to spend as they pleased. But how they looked was only part of the birth of the teenager. There's something missing at 21 Coronation Close. The sound of teen rebellion. But maybe I shouldn't be that surprised, judging by the first official music chart launched in 1952.
This is the UK's first #1 record. And it's Al Martino, Here in My Heart. Put the record on.
Teenage music, like teenage clothes, didn't really exist at the beginning of the 50s. There tended to be only one room in the house that the family could listen to music, because the equipment, the record player or the radio, was big and expensive, whilst records were fragile and expensive. It would seem if you listened to music at all, you listened to what your parents had bought.
My mother had a really, really old gramophone that they wound up, and she listened to endless Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole records. Drab, you know, I could see now it's not drab and some of it's very beautiful, but to me it was smoochy crap.
I remember listening to this rubbish and I'm thinking it's got to get better than this.
The music was so goddamn awful. It was the tail end of the dance band era. Even when I didn't have anything much to compare it to, I knew it was just about the worst music that had ever been composed.
The music sounded as dated as the technology that played it, and that had been around since the 1890s. Even when electronics became more widely available after the war, record players and radios were still big and heavy because they relied on large, expensive glass valves to amplify the tiny electrical signals coming from the record stylus or radio waves. The grown-ups, the breadwinners, were still in charge of what teenagers listened to. Then a series of innovations changed all that and turned the teenage bedroom into the focus of the British music industry.
These guys are the research team at Bell Laboratories in America, and in 1938 they invented this, the transistor. Now it's relatively simple to make. It can do all sorts of work, like processing radio waves or amplifying sound, tasks that would previously have taken loads of large glass valves. And look at its size, it's tiny. It only uses a small amount of electricity, and it made music portable.
Music moved out of the boring old living room and started a 50s party in the bedroom. And I've taken delivery of the most popular portable record player of the time.
Do you remember getting one of these for the first time?
Yes, it was fantastic.
The Dansette.
My very first record player. I bought one of these as my very first money I'd saved up from working in Woolworths.
One of these.
I've invited around my neighbours Sheila and John to spin some discs and revel in the excitement of being in control of your own entertainment.
It made my bedroom my domain. It was just your space. You could put whatever record on to whatever mood you felt. It was fantastic. We didn't dance in the bedroom. We daren't. We just sat and listened to records as they come round.
Should you have a go at playing it? Do you want to have a go, Sheila?
Teens were now free to listen and sing to music with their peers, not with their parents. But the sound quality wasn't very good. You got little more than 4 minutes of music on one side of a disc, and they weren't very robust. The reason a 78 is so fragile is down to what it's made from. The materials belong to the same era as the gramophone itself.
They originally used this stuff, shellac.
Shellac, that's beetle poo.
No, it's not beetle poo. It's a secretion of a female beetle from India and Indonesia to attract the male.
Making a shellac record is relatively easy, if a little disgusting and dangerous. It's just a mix of slate powder, carbon, and our bug secretion, all dissolved in methylated spirits, which is then pressed into a disc.
So this is a resin,
yes,
the shellac, and this is all natural ingredients. And I suppose at the start of the 20th century, that's all they had.
Dead central in there.
But these natural ingredients mean that each disc is expensive to produce. And in retrospect, they don't really have the best properties for a record at all.
So that's our Shellac record then?
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Your record collection's not going to last very long, is it?
Just to prove the point, we've decided to carry out a more scientific test of the fragility of shellac.
Bring it in! Whoa!
There is a serious point here, because this fragility means that every time a stylus runs along the groove of that delicate shellac disc, it's actually scratching off some of the recorded sound. So after only so many plays, the record is frankly useless.
You're looking forward to this, aren't you?
What's needed is something that can stand up to a bit of wear and tear.
That's quite conclusive.
Yeah.
In this decade of science, it would seem that every time a natural product showed up a weakness, the petrochemical industry was there with a solution from its vast range of polymers derived from oil. And bug juice was replaced by a plastic.
This is the 1950s. It's the age of plastic. We've got to be talking about vinyl, right?
Indeed, and this is it. Polyvinyl chloride. PVC to you and me.
These little coffee beans of vinyl plastic produced a disc that had all the properties shellac didn't.
Just one process, heat, and it can be moulded to almost any shape. Looking good.
The pressing process is pretty much the same.
Mind your fingers.
But this time you get something that's durable, so records don't wear out like 78s. And it's flexible, giving it an immediate advantage over its predecessor.
Oh my word, look at that.
Test?
Yeah. Brilliant. Can you see the difference? That's what we need for records. It's virtually indestructible.
But does it pass the patented Walker and Jobson fragility test?
That's going to survive a teenager's bedroom, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nothing. At last, here was a format fit for the teenage sound.
They're not going anywhere, are they?
No.
The first vinyl single hit British stores in 1952. And with the petrochemical industry flourishing in the 50s, vinyl became cheaper. Teenagers were now responsible for buying almost half of all the music sold in Britain.
The new records were a badge of youth. They were a badge of change. They really were. I wouldn't have known what revolutionary was in those days, but it felt like revolutionary is supposed to feel. The old people, they have their big records, their 78s, but we have our Decca 45s. Aren't we the dog's bollocks?
It's now the late 1950s in the bedroom at 21 Coronation Close. And thanks to a series of scientific breakthroughs, a new music is about to give the decade's teenagers, like my neighbours Sheila and John, a soundtrack to their lives. For the newly created teenagers, rock and roll spoke to them of a brave new world where they were in charge.
There were people like Bill Haley and the young Elvis Presley and Buddy Holly out there. And from the very first moment I heard those people, I knew that there was a world that I aspired to, a world full of yearning.
And it was a fantastic piece of electrical engineering that truly gave rock and roll its unique sound, the electric guitar. Step forward my last candidate for my Hall of Fame, one George Delmetia Beecham, a Texan vaudeville performer who wanted to turn up the volume on his steel guitar. His solution, the pickup, would eventually revolutionise music. And all that was needed was wire, a few magnets, And in the end, not even a full acoustic guitar.
I've always wanted to do this. Rock and roll! What do you think?
You hooligan.
Raw materials.
It may seem daft to have destroyed the body of this guitar, but all we really need for an electric guitar is the fretboard for actually playing the notes and the metal strings. We'll get the sound thanks to one of the fundamental rules of electromagnetic induction.
It's like mastermind. Okay.
That is just a whopping great magnet, OK?
Oh.
We've wound a copper wire around a magnetised centre to make a homemade pickup, the essential element of any electric guitar.
If I put a magnet on the bottom like that, here, just a metal ruler.
Basically, if you move a piece of metal through a magnetic field, you create an electric current.
And then attach the wires on the coil to the oscilloscope.
That's completing the circuit.
Exactly. Now, that line shows us that there is no electricity flowing through this coil at all.
Okay.
It's dead. But if I wobble this metal ruler, imagine that's the string.
Yeah.
Okay, if I give that a wiggle, suddenly you get electricity produced.
Kerrang! That's amazing. That's matching the ruler exactly. All that electricity is being generated purely through electromagnetism.
That's the beauty of an electric guitar. It's only electric when you're playing it.
Kerrang!
One of the simplest, most elegant inventions of the 20th century.
It's an electrically generating guitar.
It's an electrical generator.
The next step is to make a magnetic pickup that will pick up the vibrations of all 6 strings on my guitar. So each string will produce its own minute current that is then fed to a guitar amplifier.
And here's the body of the guitar on it for us.
Hey!
Do you like that?
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Happy Jubilee, Mum.
And that means you can turn up the volume. Vital when faced with the screaming hordes of a new generation. All we need now is someone who can actually play an electric guitar. Thankfully, I know just the man.
Now
Wow.
see?
Bruce Welch from Cliff Richard and the Shadows.
This is the first Stratocaster in Europe, which Cliff bought.
The Fender Stratocaster, unveiled in 1954, was a defining sound of rock and roll. And one of the first Brits to get their hands on it was the Shadows rhythm guitarist.
When it arrived, there was Cliff, Hank and myself. We just opened the case and went, wow! Because no one had seen anything like it. Nothing like it. Brand new, sparkling. It was like a spaceship. I mean, no one had ever seen anything like this before.
I mean, the shape and everything just looked so... Well, back then it must have been so modern.
And it was now about more than just the volume. The electric guitar could produce a sound unlike anything heard before. When the Shadows cranked up the volume on Move It, their guitars gave birth to British rock and roll and gave British teenagers their first rock and roll heroes.
I remember going to a Cliff Richard concert and I went with a friend and I didn't know how you behaved. It was the first pop concert I've ever been to and we sat there and I said, just tell me when we scream. Let me know when we're supposed to scream. And then she said, it's when you feel you want to scream because you're getting into the music. But I wasn't really. I just sat there and occasionally went, ah! Because that's what everybody else was doing.
The lead guitar guy, of course, became as important as the vocalist in most bands. And kids who didn't think they could be a smouldering sex symbol could pick up an axe and, look good with that.
The electric guitar didn't just change music and give hope to a generation of would-be pop stars. It changed the British night out.
This wasn't just for professionals, it was an instrument for the people.
By the end of the 50s, electric instruments meant a handful of people could make the same amount of noise as a whole orchestra had a decade earlier.
For me, this is the perfect example of how a series of technical innovations can create the perfect conditions for a social revolution. I mean, just look at the timeline. You've got transistors, vinyl records, kids getting electric guitars, then a few years later, rock and roll. A coincidence? I don't think so. Scientific ingenuity is the X factor behind all of this.
The makeover of the bedroom at 21 Coronation Close is finished. It feels more like a century has passed than the 10 short years it's taken to produce the phenomenon of the teenager. In 1950, this was the room of the in-betweener. The time between child and adulthood, when no one was really sure what you were. Now, at the end of the decade, a series of innovations has transformed it into this. A room and a teenager with an identity all of their own. For my neighbours who started the 50s as children, this 59 bedroom defined the birth of their generation.
I can remember nylons. I thought it was very grown up when I was about 14 and I got my first pair of nylon.
I remember if you sat on a boy's lap, you used to think, can they feel the suspenders?
Yeah.
Did you want them to feel the suspenders?
No.
I mean, you were really trailblazers, weren't you, your generation?
Yes.
Yes.
They started to
Freedom.
feel the power, the youngsters, didn't they? That they weren't going to listen to everybody else. It was their power.
Yes, well, things just generally got
That's
better.
right.
Better.
You just accepted all the change. You didn't question it.
Welcomed it, I think.
Oh, cream puff. It's
No.
exactly as if I'd been transported back.
Yeah. It was the first time there was a true divide between the generations. I mean, my parents didn't go to any of the places I went to, so it was just like I had a secret parallel life.
My parents were a different species, and they looked on us, upon us, with kind of awe. What have we done? What have we bred?
You could use this now as lip gloss.
And what better way to celebrate this decade of independence than to take my neighbours down to our own hop?
You're right, girls. We're off.
We are finished.
Come on.
Where no expense has been spared to let them dance to the latest tunes. Courtesy of our own cut-price teen idol. This is the culmination of some of the biggest scientific breakthroughs of the 20th century, crammed into one small hip joint.
Just listen to that, the sound, it's incredible. You know, when I look round, I see nylon stockings, polyester dresses, amps, electric guitars. I just wonder what record people are going to be buying on Monday morning.
But it's also so much more than mere clothes and music. This is the embodiment of a decade that saw science and technology facilitate the emergence of a whole new and alien culture, the teenager.